Good afternoon and welcome back to the Same Business, Different Day podcast. First, I want to introduce Alyssa, my co-host. How you doing, Alyssa?
I'm doing really well.
You know, what is that? Your commute was about an hour or something?
It was a little over an hour today. Yeah, it was a rough commute today, but that's okay. I was looking forward to getting here, so that makes the commute worth it.
We thank you for being here. And, you know, when we get that Same Business, Different Day helicopter, then you'll be the first one to be able to use it.
Right, but I want to drive it.
Fly
it. I guess you fly a helicopter.
Okay. Yeah. Well, before you, once you learn the difference between driving and flying, then you can go get your license.
I'll get started.
Today, I am excited. Throughout our podcast, we've been so fortunate to have such great guests, and today is no different. She might just be the best. I had the opportunity to see this lady speak at an event that we did at one of our facilities, at one of her facilities. Her attention to every detail of putting this place together was impressive. And not only was her staff clearly working in unison with her by being so helpful, but she herself was so eager to personally take us on a tour. These are the types of things we subconsciously notice about a good business, running like a machine. I'm happy to introduce the Same Business, Different Day audience to a true celebrated leader and visionary, Julie Lowen.
Hey, everybody. It's so good to meet you.
Yes. We're happy to be here. We're happy to have you here. And cheers to you on your success. More success than we probably even have enough time to discuss, but and so much more to come for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Alyssa, you want to tell her the rules of the game?
I would love to. So for this podcast, it's Same Business, Different Day. We talk about business owners, what you do. But we really want to get to know you. And so before we talk about what you do, we'll talk about where you come from, what you know, and all those sorts of things. And when it feels right, we'll do the big reveal and talk about, you know, what you're actually doing.
Awesome. Sounds fun. I'm excited about it.
You remember what you wanted to be when you grew up? You remember you got the early memories?
Kind of ish.
Okay.
You know, I don't think I had a whole lot of ideas about what I wanted to be when I grow up. I was just wanting to grow up.
Oh, it was a big family, right? I thought you said, seven siblings?
We had 7 kids.
Okay.
Yeah. 7 kids. So 7 kids in a mixed race family in the 1960s.
In the 60s?
60s.
Okay.
So think about that. My father worked for North American Aviation, and they convinced him to leave his job of 17 and a half years, give up his union seniority as a black man in America, go up to Boeing, where he was supposedly going to get this spectacular job, making much more money. It was going to be all so awesome. And so he did that. He moved his entire family. He used his retirement to buy a house in Washington State. And we arrived cold with everything we had from California. We weren't a wealthy family. And 6 months later, he was laid off in the great Boeing layoff of the 70s.
Wow.
So I was in kindergarten at the time, and we instantly were starving, literally starving. So kind of an interesting start. I didn't really know, that you could decide what you wanted to be someday. I just wanted to live to the next day. And that was kind of where I was really focused.
So who were obviously your father was one of the leaders of the house. He had to pick himself up right from that. And then did you have older siblings? Who were kind of the mentors, and where'd you learn leadership?
So what I watched my father do when he lost his job, he went to work for Weyerhaeuser, and he began digging ditches. And we were literally starving. I ate rice only for weeks at a time, while my parents took what little money they had and bought seeds, planted a garden, bought chickens, so that we could have eggs, and at one point, in fact, bought a cow. And we're living in this little house. We borrowed the lot next to us from our neighbor, and they let us keep our cow in their pasture. And it had this little barn in the back. And so suddenly, all of us kids, we became indentured servants, picking weeds and planting gardens and doing all this stuff we couldn't figure out. We were hungry. We were exhausted. I had this lady next door to me. Her name was Caroline. And I walked home from school every day. She invited me into her house, and I had 2 cookies and a little glass of milk, and she would tell me, all sorts of stuff. And she was a nurse. And I remember her coming over and helping us cut off the head of the first chicken. Oh, my God.
Oh, gosh.
So disgusting. Oh, it was so gross. And I remember hours peeling pears and apples from her trees that were infested with worms. I remember sitting at this table, and literally the worms were crawling from the boxes up the walls. And my mom would get the broom and knock the worms down, and we had to pick the worms out and rinse it off so that she could make applesauce and pear sauce so that literally we could eat.
Yeah.
So I would say my first mentor was my father, who literally was looking at 7 children starving in a community in Washington State that was blatantly racist. People would walk to our house. They would walk across the street because we lived on the wrong side of the tracks. We bought a house on the wrong side of the tracks.
Okay.
So we were supposed to be on the other side of the tracks. And so we're in a completely white neighborhood as a biracial family. And so they walked across the street, walked past our house, and they would walk to the other side.
Yeah.
So it was unbelievable, to try to figure out how to deal with that. And then we went to this church in Sumner, Washington, the Assembly of God church there, and they loved us.
Okay.
And they didn't care. And they made us blankets because I remember I went to school in what I call clip-clop shoes, bobby socks, and a skirt in the snow. That's all I had, So they helped us kind of weatherize ourselves, and then it was funny because, as a biracial family, you get these experiences that in public, I appear white. So it didn't happen to me in public. But when my father was present, it was a whole different story. So we had a situation where somebody in the community decided that they were going to be kind to this family that's in our community. They weren't going to join in on all of the discrimination, the disrespect we were receiving. And so she brought us over this entire bowl of bones, and it had no meat on it whatsoever.
Okay.
And that was her contribution to our family to help us.
Okay.
It was literally she tried so hard.
She want to teach you to make soup or something?
We made bone broth.
Yes, make broth.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So it was kind of an interesting start. So I would say that my father first.
Sure.
I would say second, the teachers at my elementary school. So
Good.
They knew we were starving. They knew that many of the families in our community, most of them from the wrong side of the tracks, were starving because of the Boeing layoff. Many families relied on that company for their sustenance during that time. And so the teachers got together and they made sure we were okay. I remember coming to school in the morning, and even if I was late, they would always draw me into the kitchen and give me breakfast.
Good. Yeah.
They would send bags of nuts and candy and fruit home with us as gifts. But it wasn't a gift from them. It was because, everybody gets to do that. But everybody didn't really get to do that, and we knew that. But they tried to normalize us and make us feel like we were just part of the team, and the homemade goods and the way that they treated us and the educational activities and the fun and the learning. That's where Children's Paradise came from, was from those teachers at Pacific Elementary School in Washington. It was
She's getting ahead of herself.
I know.
You see that?
I hear. That's all right. That's all right. We just had a name. That's all.
You had older siblings?
I do. So I am the third of 7.
Okay.
So I have an older sister who we have probably butted heads our entire lives.
Okay.
An older brother who is my best friend. We are, in it. And then I have 4 younger sisters.
Well, I was only asking just because, it seems like a time the time you're talking about sounds like, a time for everybody to kind of stick together, right? And kind of push through together.
In our family, it was this strange relationship. My mom came from a very abusive family.
Okay.
And she continued that with her own kids. So we had this sweet, loving, kind, hardworking father, a sweet, loving, kind, hardworking mother who was also very abusive and very divisive at times. So as kids, we were kind of in the middle of this morass of deep poverty. But at the same time, public appearances, we were defiant in the face of the discrimination that we were receiving. So it was just this very complex. It's not like, we all banded together and we worked as a team. It wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Really?
No, it wasn't. On the outside, we did a lot of that. On the inside, there was a lot of conflict and a lot of stress and a lot of abuse.
Did anyone out of the siblings sort of take on a leadership role? I know when you have a big family like that, there is often, 1 or 2 kids that just take over and show the rest, the road and what to do.
Yeah. I would say this, that because of the divisiveness and the abuse, I would say it was targeted on my sister, my older sister, and I didn't quite understand it a lot. She had a lot of resentment, and she started running away from home at a very, like in Washington State. So she started running away to try to get away from the abuse, and that was probably the fissure in, our perfect family and the image that we tried to present to the community. I would say I became the leader, but I also became the scapegoat as well, because when you stand up to or against, sometimes you become the target. So that was a difficult time. But we did our best. We worked as a team, to the extent that we could. I know I picked a lot of vegetables.
A lot of worms.
A lot of work.
So eventually you get away from that and get into like the job force. What was your first job? Do you remember?
So we left Washington State and we came to California because my father had trained himself to become a cement finisher.
Okay.
He had done so by literally taking whatever leftover cement Weyerhaeuser was pouring, putting it in the back of his broken down red pickup, taking it home and pouring ourselves a new patio and a new driveway. At the beginning, he used a scratchy straw broom. At the end, it was perfect.
North County Daily Star is the leading source for news and community information. There are 650,000 residents along the 78 corridor in 5 unique cities that share the region, North County, San Diego. We work and play in these cities, so we are all interested in what happens in our common region. There is no cost to subscribe, and it is continuously updated. So look for us on your mobile device or computer at ncdailystar.com.
The Vista Chamber of Commerce serves our local business community. We're a catalyst for business growth, providing connections to business prospects, networking opportunities, and relationships in a friendly, referral-based environment. We provide access to business resources, information, and training to support the growth and professional development for you and your employees. We're a convener of leaders and influencers, and we provide advocacy representation with elected officials, policymakers, and business leaders at every level of government. We have influence over issues that directly impact your business and facilitate collaborations of business and community leaders to identify and to solve challenges. Lastly, we're a champion for a stronger community, and we strive to inspire smart planning decisions for long-term community sustainability. We identify strategic partnerships to benefit the business retention and growth, workforce development, and charitable giving. And we represent a vibrant community by responding to visitor needs and providing assistance through our office. Check us out online at www.vistachamber.org.
Yeah.
So he had family in Southern California that were in the cement industry, and so they convinced him if he came down here that they could help him get connected. So we came to Vista. We rolled in and stayed with my aunt and uncle who live in Vista to this day. My aunt Willertha lives over on Prospect.
Okay.
And we stayed with them until my mom ticked her off and she kicked us out. So we became homeless. We're just kind of banging around in Vista. And I remember going to Sunday school at the First Assembly of God Church in Vista on Indian Rock Road. And my Sunday school teacher saw me. And I don't think I even had shoes on that day. We were so poor. And I know I was really incredibly hungry. And I know I had been beaten the day before, so I had marks all over my legs that hurt. I just remember sitting in that Sunday school classroom and just being broken. And Pauline Blackington, the founding family of Blackington Field, which is an airport out in Valley Center, took our family in. She adopted us that day and took us to her 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom home that had its own gas station, that had its own garages. I remember 5-car garage and barns and outbuildings and houses. And she helped us. She put us in private school, and she helped rescue us, second mentor. And she was the hardest working woman ever. She would farm those trees and collect stuff and teach us how to use it. And just taught me how to, she says, yeah, this is where it is, but you can do something about it. And she ordered me Current stationery. And at Current stationery, you could buy stationery at that time for 50% of what the sales price was supposed to be. And so she bought me a box of stationery and told me, you just need to sell this.
Okay.
I'm like, I don't know, how do I do it? So what I did is I started walking around to the neighbors and selling stationery, and using the money that I made from the stationery, I was able to buy more stationery, and I was able to buy a brush, buy a comb, get nylons, buy underwear, which I don't think I had many of, and, just basically survive as a kid. Yeah. I was, by this time, I was in the 4th grade. So 4th, 5th grade.
That's so young to be doing something like that. But there's so many lessons that you learn from that. We talked about this in past episodes, right? Where that door-to-door kind of attitude. I mean, you got to be a good communicator, for one. You have to have some ambition. You have to be brave. You have to be confident in order to just go meet a stranger and just let them know, hey, would you buy this from me? Yeah. And you have to be able to explain your product, why you want this product, you know.
And why it's good.
Yeah. And then you learn how to deal with money.
Yeah.
So you took that money and put it back into getting more product.
I had to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I had a lady at our church, and she would make peanut brittle. And I would show up and help her make peanut brittle just as her friend. And then she talked me into helping her sell the peanut brittle.
Okay.
So she would literally take me out in her car and drop me off at these strip malls. And I would have to carry boxes of peanut brittle and sell them for $2 a piece. Wow. And out of the $2 that I sold, I would get 10 cents for every one. So I would end up the day, I would make maybe $4 or $5. Because I literally sold that many stacks of peanut brittle for her. I got 10 cents out of every $2 that I sold. Yeah. So she was making
What did she see in you? What do you think? You were just little and cute, or she knew that you had sales skills?
I don't think I was cute at all. I think ultimately I was an easy target. As a kid that was.
You think she was just
hungry.
Using you?
Oh, she was using me all day long, no doubt. But at the same time, I remember walking into a beauty salon and explaining my speech I came up with myself and explaining to them why they had to have this peanut brittle. And the one lady looks at me and goes, "Oh my God, is that what curls your hair?" Because my hair is all straightened today. It's very curly. So it was one of those things where. I had to figure it out on my own. If I wanted to survive, I had to figure it out on my own.
You definitely did. Because, as if you're the boss of a salesperson, she lets you write your own speech. That's not cool. Like she should have written a speech for you at least. She just said, go sell it. Yeah, you definitely were.
I was. I knew.
And you learned
what
from
she
it.
was trying to do, and I believed in her cause. It was supposed to raise money for the church, and I was all involved. I was like a kid, I probably sold stationery, peanut brittle, babysat until I was 15 years old, when I convinced Combined Services Benefit Association to hire me without a permit.
No, what's this business again?
It was an insurance company.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were selling junk insurance for everything you could imagine.
Okay.
All sorts of benefits. It was called a Combined Services Benefit Association. And they had like this package of everything that was useless that you could be insured for, and everything that was unbelievable. And so my job was to set up appointments for insurance agents that were going to go out to people's houses. And so I would just set up appointments with people I knew and tell them, you got to let them come. You got to let them see you. I promise you. And the people I knew were buying this stuff. And I'm going, oh my gosh, this is junk. And I said to my best friend, who I talked into doing it, she did it and she bought it. I said, come on, Arlene, this is junk. No, it's not worth anything. No, she was going to buy it. Oh, wow. No, it was worth something.
No fear, though. I mean, how did you deal with the rejections? I mean, there were plenty of people that are hanging up on you. You're doing something. I understand what business you're talking about. I sell insurance. I don't sell junk insurance, but I understand what you're saying. How did you deal with rejection at that early age? Would you say 15?
Yes, 15. I had turned 15. I looked at it this way. I've always been like a real weird person. I kind of equate everything to kind of dating and men and women and kind of the relationships.
Okay.
And I looked at it this way. How many billions of men are in this world? How many billions are going to like me? Mm-hmm. Same thing with customers. There are billions of customers in this world. Why waste your time on somebody who says no? Let them say no, go on. Let them say no, go on. Yeah. So you're going to get billions of no's before you get billions of yeses. And probably they're going to be intermixed. So you're going to get lots of no's and lots of yeses. So move on. Get the no's over with quick and move on to the yes,
Perfect.
And so my idea was that if I just keep working, I'm going to be able to make it. And I was commission only. And I actually made money. at 15 years old, and I was able to put that into buying a moped.
Ooh, there we go.
I bought a moped. Oh my gosh, which is really hard, driving around on a moped.
The beginning of your daredevil years.
It was so awful.
Did any of this lead to, a career or entrepreneurial path? You from this sparked an idea, led into something else. What came next?
I would say that every single step I took, there was this knowledge that I gained from experience. And I think that experience trumps knowledge all the time. That you think you know something. Professors at universities today think they know. They don't have any idea because they don't have the experience that informs knowledge. And I would say that what the biggest strength that I gained by having this type of an upbringing was by having this knowledge that said what I thought wasn't true. What I know is what I experienced when I actually did it. Mm-hmm. And I knew things. And I would say that sense of confidence has never left me.
Beautiful.
I would say that I know what I know.
Yeah.
There's no doubt I know what I know because I did it.
Because you've been through it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know what you know when you do it. And so I would say that, the experience, I worked at McDonald's and, I was starving at that point. I had been kicked out of my parents' house because I wouldn't date somebody they wanted me to date.
Ooh.
I was like, yeah, no, it's not happening. I'm not getting married young. I'm not having babies for you. I'm not going to be that traditional, girl in our family that does that. I am going to do something different. And so I had been kicked out of my house and I was literally sneaking in and sleeping at our youth pastor's house, which you didn't know it. And I worked at McDonald's. I just did so many things. And I would just say all along the way, it was the scrappiness that said, if I don't quit, I can't fail. Mm-hmm. I just have to keep trying.
Trying at what, though? What was the goal? You had bigger ideas, obviously, because you could easily just go into, okay, parents, you put me with this guy, I make the babies, I move on and live this life. But you had some bigger plan. Do you know what the plan was?
I wish I could tell you I did.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could tell you.
You just knew that wasn't the right.
I was simply determined.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that so many times what entrepreneurial people do is they say, you have to know what you're going to do in order to be able to set out on a path to do it. Mm-hmm. That's not my path. My path was ultimately unknown. I knew I wasn't doing that. What was I doing? I wasn't sure, but I continued to get an education. So anytime I could afford to take a class at the local community college, I did.
Right.
It taught me about accounting. So working at McDonald's, I needed to work with cash. I needed a balance. What did that mean? An accounting class. I thought, something I need to understand what balancing is. I need to understand, how this all works. I was interested in how much the product costs because they were selling it for what seemed like so little. So how much did they pay for it? So I was curious in everything I did. And from the experience I had at McDonald's and from the accounting class, I got a job at Southwest Bank. My job at Southwest Bank as just a simple teller. I argued about my pay, asking for more than they wanted to pay me. Probably 6 months into it, I learned there was a girl that had been there for 7 years making $170 a month less than I was to start, simply because I asked for more. Mm-hmm. So I think it was that the willingness to ask for mm-hmm. things, the willingness to gain information on my own. I didn't wait for the bank to tell me, oh, by the way, you should probably take this course now. Instantly, I was back at college taking a business class, teaching me how to write and professionally communicate, teaching me any number of things. I just took the classes that I thought would help me advance in my career, in my job, whatever job that was. I didn't think, oh, I want to be a banker. I was like, I don't want to be a banker. This is pretty boring. You got to do the same thing every day. But I was learning, and I learned what I could. And then I quit my job because I asked for a raise, and they wanted to give me $25 a month less than I asked for. And I was like, no, I'm worth this. And, it's this or no.
Yeah.
And so the funny thing happened was I quit my job at Southwest Bank, and my mom, evidently one of my younger sisters had become pregnant out of wedlock, which was kind of normal in our family. And so they were going to go to a farm so nobody knew. And I'm like, why does anybody care? Yes, it's the, 80s by then, early 80s. But, what are you doing? Well, they weren't going to tell the father. And there was just all this drama. And she had a home daycare that she was running. And so she asked me if I would take over it so that they could leave. And I'm like, okay, I got nothing better to do. Sure. So I took over her home daycare.
Okay.
And that's where I learned even more. I learned about income and expenses. I already knew how banks worked, because I'd worked there for a year and a half from, the teller to the escrow department to, so I'd
But then you got some more practical experience.
So then I was at, my mom's house, and I had 12 kids and a helper. And I had to figure out how to take them in, feed them in the morning, keep them busy, because I'm telling you, 12 kids without something to do, oh my God, they will make you crazy. Oh, yeah. It's no fun, trust me. And so instantly I had to figure out, okay, I got to make this fun, because trust me, the discipline and making them behave and sit on timeout, that wasn't working for me. So I was like, okay, we got to change this up. So I did that for about, I would say, 6 months, when my sister decided that she didn't want to keep the father out of her life, came home. My mom came home. At that time, I had signed us up on all sorts of payment programs. So the daycare was full and it was teeming. And she came home and took it from me, all of it. Took all of my payments that were coming in the mail. I had 60 days in arrears because these were alternative payment programs. And so I'm sitting here on my own again. What am I going to do? And I didn't even skip a beat. It hurt. I cried maybe a little bit. And I went out and found a job at a real estate company, and was a receptionist at a real estate company.
Okay.
And that taught me about real estate. And that taught me about escrow and closing and APN numbers and the different
you've learned so much just through experience. Yeah. But you're getting out there, and you never stopped.
No, I didn't. But
you had the confidence.
I think what somebody listening should hear is that every single step that I engaged with 1,000% energy, learning every single thing I could about that today, became exactly what I need today.
Yeah.
In 2020 to do my job.
Yeah.
And to make the kind of money that I'm able to make today. As I remember, I was making $2.15 an hour at the real estate company. They hired me at a lot of money, and it was crazy. I was like, once again, very hungry, eating very little and trying to survive. But I learned everything I could about what was happening. And one day I went home and I made cookies on my lunch because I knew we had an escrow closing. So I just tried to make every place I was a special place. I don't know what it was that made me do that. It's just who I am. And so
you probably helped them make some good money too.
A lot. So I brought those cookies to the closing, and cowboy cookies. I'll have to make you sometime.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing. I still make them. Everybody wants the recipe. I never get it out. Can't give all your secrets away.
That's right.
Okay.
But the people coming in to close escrow had a friend that was their business partner, civil engineer. And, I just had to meet him. Nope, I'm good. I don't need to be set up on a date. I'm good. Probably chased me for around 6 months to meet this guy. And finally, just out of like sheer exhaustion, I said, fine, whatever, fine. So gave in and met him and married him 6 months later.
All right.
Hadn't made the cookies, I wouldn't have my Dave.
Okay.
So it's kind of, but Dave is.
Do you still make him the cookies?
Something, he loves my cookies. I freeze them for him even.
Yeah.
So, but Dave's a civil engineer. And so the connection with Dave, so bringing that person into your life that builds you up and fulfills you and kind of builds you out. For me as an entrepreneur, it suddenly created even more that I could do. So I knew banking, I knew accounting, I knew how to run a business, I knew children. I continued to gain additional education. When I was doing the home daycare, I got child development units.
Yeah.
I needed to know art. What do I do with kids? Art, science, math. I needed activities. So
And then you had a partnership.
Out of desperation, I gained information. Then I gained a partner who knew the land development side of it, and ta-da!
Okay, so then it's time for the big reveal. It's time for the reveal. To this point, you've had the chance to learn about the journey, the early attempts, hurdles, and triumphs of our guest, Julie Lowen. The trials that turned her into the eventual magician, juggler, seed planter we are in the presence of today. As educators and parents, we know how important the work is that you do, and we're thankful for your work, as we are for you being here today. We're in the presence of a powerhouse, Julie Lowen, the CEO and founder of Children's Paradise. Can you tell us more about the vision? Because that's kind of where we were going anyway. Tell us about the vision of Children's Paradise.
So, as a kid, I was so unbelievably poor, and I was so unbelievably hurting. And the people that reached out and took care of me were educators, straight up. At school is where they found I was being abused, or that I needed food, or that I needed clothing, or that there was a connection that I needed made for me. And so there were many educators. Mr. Jungerheld from Washington Middle School, Mr. Grandy. There were also teachers who weren't so kind to me, and that impacted me unbelievably. And so when I looked at my life at some point, and I did sit down and actually think about making a career move and deciding, what do I want to be? What do I want to do? It had to be with kids at some level. It was my thinking, but it was a pivotal moment that kind of propelled me there. In 1989, I was pregnant with our second child, our son Timothy, and Timothy died at birth. I was working full-time at the engineering firm that we had built together as a team, Dave and I. And I was just devastated. I was miserable. My son was 3.5 years old. He was devastated and miserable. We'd go to the grocery store and he'd tell everybody, guess what? My baby brother died. I would go out crying. I couldn't even pay for the groceries. It was just awful.
Oof, I read about this.
I decided to go home and just be at home with him. And God sent kids into my life. He sent Taryn Shada. He sent Alyssa and Nikki. They're my three witches of Eastwick. Somebody had a home daycare and it was being shut down. A friend down the street, I had her little kindergartner. I had, just playing with my son so that he could have some happiness. And she said that these kids have nowhere to go. The daycare's been shut down. 3 little baby girls. Can you just take them for a few days?
You need insurance, and you need yourinsuranceplace.com as your brokers. And I'll tell you why. They have access to hundreds of carriers, and we're never left without results. Not even the hard-to-place risks. A good insurance broker is a problem solver. Our team is dedicated to getting you covered. Take time to shop with yourinsuranceplace.com. Save money. Get protected. yourinsuranceplace.com.
Hi, I'm Jeff Fox, founder of StarFox Media. We're a digital marketing and video production company that focuses on serving small businesses here in Vista, California. We have the team and all of the equipment necessary to produce, film, edit, and distribute your podcast to as many people as possible. For more information, you can reach out to us via email at info@starfox.media or give us a call at 760-385-3117. Let StarFox Media help you tell your brand story today.
The San Marcos Chamber of Commerce is the voice of business in San Marcos. With over 50 years of service to the community, we continuously evolve to meet the needs of our members and help solve problems. Our strategic plan is based on 3 pillars: advocate for our members and small businesses. During this pandemic, we have participated in letter writing campaigns to the governor and have made statements during county board meetings, city council meetings to help businesses open while following health and safety protocol. We continue to work with Cal Chamber to oppose job-killing bills, and we also take stands on propositions that we support or oppose depending on how it affects our small businesses. Another pillar is promoting San Marcos through special events, such as festivals, farmers market, Taste of San Marcos, and most recently, candidates forums for the school board elections and also city council. The third pillar is we also provide valuable resources for our members through webinars, networking events, as well as access and introductions to people that will help your business thrive. For more information on the San Marcos Chamber of Commerce, please visit our website at sanmarcoschamber.com.
And they came into my home and they rescued me, because seriously, I don't know if I would be here had I not, gotten into working with them. Just Taryn liked her diapers crunchy, and Alyssa loved water, and Nikki was afraid of everything. And just working with them and helping them to get to know the world and to grow as little people was just so fulfilling for me. It just filled that ache in my soul. And eventually I had this home daycare. I still live up on Red Road in this 6,000 square foot Victorian home. And I had this home daycare for 12 kids. And honestly, I was way over capacity most of the time because everybody was driving me crazy to take their kids because we have so much fun. Mm-hmm. I mean, we made bread and just, made paper bag kites. And, we were just having this raucous fun every single day of the year. And so I had this doctor come to my house, came to the back door, and he just walked in. And I'm like pregnant with my daughter at this point. It's 91, and I'm about 8 months pregnant, getting ready to have a baby. And I've got this guy, he's like 6'8", and he's a chiropractic doctor, and he's got a little girl named Lindsay, and he's not leaving my house until I enroll her. And I'm going, look, I'm licensed for 12. I've got 14 here today. I can't enroll your child. I'm over ratio as it is. I'm, not intentionally, but that day more kids need it. And it was just one of those things. He stayed there for almost 6 hours until finally I agreed to enroll his child, just so he would leave, okay? And so I was telling somebody the story that evening, and the person looked at me and goes, something, Julie, you should just start a preschool. This is ridiculous. You got so many kids in your house. Right. Mm-hmm. I would want my house back at some point. I went, you are so right. I didn't even think about that. Mm-hmm. And so with $35,000, guess how I got it? I had saved every single penny that I could that was extra for our family. So I had about $16,000 myself. I turned in a life insurance policy that had some equity. I borrowed $6,000 from my Aunt Willertha, who told me if I didn't pay her back in 6 months, she would shoot me with her gun. Mm-hmm. And she would have too, trust me. Mm-hmm. She threatened me several times to shoot me with her gun.
Okay, tell me exactly what street she's on again.
Trust me, you want to see my Aunt Willertha. She's epic. And then a friend of ours, Craig McNeil, who has since passed, he turned in his life insurance policy, and that's how I came up with $35,000. And using that amount of money, I bought a half-acre lot on Vale Terrace Drive in Vista. And using Dave's expertise as a civil engineer, we traded work with an architect that he knew. So he did free work for this architect, and the architect did free work for us to design the architectural plans. And then we built the center ourselves. So we broke ground on, we broke ground in, I believe it was like June, and we opened for business on the 15th of October in 1993. And I planted every tree, I painted every wall, and I did 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. childcare in my home. Mm-hmm. During the same time. I literally worked the last 6 weeks of construction. I probably worked on average 20 to 22 hours per day. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the last week, I worked 60 hours straight without sleeping. Up until it was funny because I was finishing getting everything done, carpet in, because we had the mayor and everybody coming on Saturday for open house. I worked until 6:30 that morning. I went home and took a shower. I came back and made everybody breakfast. We had probably 150 people showed up that day and went on tours of our building and all of that on Vale Terrace. Mayor Gloria McClellan showed up. And then I cleaned everything up. I got home at 8 o'clock on Saturday night, and I slept till 8 o'clock on Sunday night. I was exhausted. Yeah. Sweat
equity.
Unbelievable.
That is, that's important. It's important for our listeners to hear that too. You put in, you're going to get out what you put in, and you got to really put a lot into what you're doing. And I tell you what, shout out to Dave. I mean, you guys have done such a great job. And for all of your locations, when I drive by them, it's really important because what you get out of that is You drive through these neighborhoods and you see a place like yours and you say, I'm raising my kids in the right area. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you need out of you see a good preschool in a neighborhood, you kind of feel like, okay, these people want my kids to grow up great.
Yep.
And that's what I get when I drive by your locations.
Yeah. I think the cool thing about my locations is we have created these locations for what we call hole-in-the-wall kids. So we don't go into wealthy communities. We actually choose communities that are on the edge of poverty and on the edge of wealth, so that every single child that's impoverished gets equal access to high-quality early childhood education.
Yeah.
We don't give children who have nothing, and children who have everything. I mean, take a look at the Boys and Girls Club in Vista and then look at the one in Carlsbad and ask yourself, what kind of message are we sending to kids with nothing when we have such a hard time delivering spectacular facilities for children who are so impoverished in Vista comparatively to a community like Carlsbad with very little poverty comparatively?
Sure.
And I'm not saying anybody's doing anything wrong, but I think that as Americans, we have to stop and think there's a lot of angst on the streets today. Why? Because many of the kids growing up in our communities see that there are two different societies that you live in. If you're poor like me, you get bone broth. You get rice for weeks. You don't have shoes. You don't have access to the things that you need in order to compete. And I would say in gym, I had to run as fast as everybody else ran, but my shoes didn't fit me. They didn't work. I mean, I could have ran faster if I was barefooted, but I wasn't allowed to go barefooted. So I could never be a presidential physical fitness award winner because I didn't have the right equipment. And so I think that what Children's Paradise has done, we opened our first preschool where we could afford to open it. And then we did everything in our power to learn how to do it absolutely over and above what we were expected to do. So it's how do I do this? And how do I give children what they deserve and what they need? And it was that authentic drive to be not just the best, but better than the best. And that drive led us to also authentically embracing my childhood. I was incredibly poor and I had nothing. And I want every child in Vista who has nothing to have everything when they come to my preschools. And so I would say that passion, the experience as a child, the loss of my son, just all of it is just this authentic boiling pot of passion that says, I have got to leave a better place than the one I found when I got here.
Absolutely.
And I would say that is ultimately what drives us. And because that's what drives us, people see that drives us. And our centers are full with a waiting list a mile long. Because people know it's authentic, it's real. In this world today, everything's fake. Everything's, just, you don't know what to think and what to believe. But when you come to Children's Paradise, without a shadow of a doubt, you know it. Because the second your child needs shoes, they have them. The second you need food, we're fixing it. The second you need a medical connection, you've got it. We are all about supporting and helping our families. You can pay them to go someplace else because who else is going to support them like we do? And I think that's huge.
On that note, some people just see preschool as, an expensive daycare. And why is Children's Paradise? I mean, I know that that's not the case, but why is Children's Paradise? That's not the case. It's more than, you're not just taking care of the kids, they're learning, right?
But a lot of people think it's about education because that's what educators want you to think. It's education, right? ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. It's not about that. Every single child is born with strengths and weaknesses. Every single seedling that you plant in your garden has little bends or little things that need to be addressed. If you address those little things as the child is growing, they no longer have to deal with those because you can actually impact the outcome through developmental assessment and intervention. So what early care and education is about, sure, I mean, ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and all of the fun stuff, that's great. But that's not what it's about. It's about developmental assessment and intervention so that if a child has autism, did you know that if a child has autism and they are diagnosed at 2 to 3 years of age, by the time they're 6 years of age, the chances of them typically functioning as a normal child is incredibly higher than if you wait until the child is 5 years and they go to kindergarten. Chances are you will never have a child that's able to function in in a typically normal fashion. It's so different because that period of time is when the brain is developing. And I'm trying to explain it in layman's terms so everybody really understands. But think about a little brain in a baby and the development that it goes through between 0 through 6 years. It's the most impactful development in the life of a human being. You're only going to take on approximately 20% more development for the rest of your entire life. So preschool, while it's about learning and having fun and all of that, it's about an incredible connection to a resource that can make sure that your child has higher IQ capacity, higher EQ capacity, and the ability to have increased socialization skills, a much higher level of confidence. And what you're doing is you're setting up the child for educational success. They can learn ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and everything when they go to kindergarten. There's no need for that in preschool, except it's fun and it gives them exposure, okay? But it is in and amongst all of that the developmental intervention happens. And that's what's so important about preschool. That's what's life-changing about it.
Okay.
You know what I like too about what you've been talking about is equality and the diversity. It seems like it has a lot to do with your plan. But you also probably have these parents that are resistant to change like that or to too much of that. How do you deal with that?
Well, I'll tell you a quick story about a parent who was resistant to change. We got a little guy into our facility with his brother who was living on the streets down on Los Angeles here in Vista, which is the townside area, a lot of poverty, a lot of gang activity. And his mother brought him in. He literally was, we called him Mowgli, because he had never been socialized. He was used to fighting for his food. He came into the classroom. He was dirty from head to toe and ran up to everybody's food because he came in at lunchtime, ran up to everybody's food, began grabbing it off their trays and eating it as fast as he could. And I had this wife of a dermatologist was in there, and her little girls were aghast at this little guy, running amok. And she told me instantly, either you disenroll him from your program or we're leaving.
Oh, no.
And I'm a Cajun and have a temper. So I was like, and I have a heart for kids. He had been there a couple of days. I knew the story of this mom horrifically abused. It was just awful. And I knew the story of the kids. And I looked at her and I told her, I said, I'm going to tell you straight up, we're not disenrolling him. And not only are we not disenrolling him, but if you are going to stay enrolled in our program, you're going to adopt his family and you're going to make sure that you show you actually can care about children like this. Because guess what? Your children can meet him today and you can reach out as a human being and help his family, or your children can meet him on the street someday, and that's not going to be so fun. And she looked at me shocked because we were the preschool, and heaven forbid if she was disenrolled at the time, it would have been, this major social problem. And it was hilarious because after quite a conversation with her, she showed up a couple days later with a bag of clothes from Nordstrom.
Yeah.
And which was pretty interesting, seeing a little guy like that had clothes from Nordstrom. His mom was kind of like, what? I don't think he's going to wear that. But we daily would take him into the laundry room, pop him into the tub, give him a bath. We had to delice him at times. We created a life for that child. We've done that for many of the children here in Vista. And he isn't, to my knowledge, to this day, a product of the system. I have other kids where we've done that. They've never joined the gangs because they were given options and opportunities. And when parents see that, I don't care how elitist they are. I don't care what background they come from. Americans are good people. And when we're able to communicate to parents, hey, this is what they need. I need you to help as a kid. You realize you're like a father, you realize you're threatening to punch a 3-year-old because he did whatever to your daughter. You get that, right? How about we try this? And I think that through those interactions, we're able to educate parents and bring them along and help them to understand, hey, everybody in society doesn't have what my kids have. This little guy was starving. He was accustomed to fighting for food. How is he going to walk into a preschool classroom and change overnight? Yeah. Trust me, within a couple of months, he was sitting down with everybody else and fine because he knew he was going to get fed.
He was going to get his food.
He didn't have to run and grab everybody else's, but it took us a while.
Sure.
Yeah, it took us a while.
Our goal with Same Business, Different Day is, for business owners that are old enough to listen in, we want to inspire and show that opportunities come from every different direction, no matter your upbringing. And so you're doing a similar thing with Children's Paradise, but for the younger kids, giving them those opportunities, showing them that doors can open if you work for it, you work hard, and you remember who to rely on. You look towards mentors in the community to help out. So I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, we've got a clubhouse program that does it with school age kids, where they're actual entrepreneurs over the summer, and their job is to raise money and then find a cause and donate their money or a percentage of their money, depending, because many of these kids are impoverished themselves. So we obviously
need
make sure
that
that
10-cent peanut brittle too.
We make sure they keep money for themselves as well, but we find causes to donate to, and they feel really proud of being able to be a part of that community.
That's fantastic.
And it's been a really fun thing to do. Our clubhouse is, raging over summer. I mean, these kids could never go to Disneyland or Legoland or any of that. We've got our buses running. They're going everywhere. I mean, any child that's kept in this society, our kids have at least as good of a summer as that child, if not better.
That's awesome.
Because we just take them everywhere. And I think this last summer we had 160 kids that we ran amok. We have massive beach parties where we have literally everything they can imagine. Imagine being a poor kid and showing up to the beach, and you have juice boxes and snacks and a barbecue, and you have a volleyball net set up, and you have sand toys and every kind of game, and tons of people watching out for you, and you have special towels that are your own. And I mean, just every single thing that they could imagine, they have. And they've never experienced that before.
And on top of that, they're getting experience building a network. You're setting them up for the future. So it's not just having fun at the beach.
And one of my babysitting jobs was one of the connections I made for the future, where I babysat for Paula Eckert, whose father was the supervisor, San Diego County supervisor at the time. And Paul Eckert has been a connection of mine ever since, simply because I just did a great job babysitting for her, because I would not only babysit, I would sew her dresses at the same time. She'd come home and her baby was taken care of and she'd have a new dress, just because I was just that kind of a kid. I was just trying to be the best I could be and do the best job I could. And, as an abused child, you're always trying to prove yourself. To this day, I try to prove myself. I'm always reaching, because as an abused child, I mean, you never are good enough, ever, ever, ever. And so I think that there's part of that, drive, that you're constantly working.
We hate the abuse, but we welcome the drive. What you're doing is amazing. And the product is awesome.
Yeah, it's spectacular.
Talk about the piece that we can't ignore, right? The COVID effect. How has everything affected the school, your system now?
So when COVID hit, I literally thought I was going to be out of business in weeks. I seriously did.
And you have a number of locations, right?
I do.
At that
I have
point.
6 locations.
Yeah.
I have 200 employees, buildings.
That's a big drop.
It's a lot.
If that was to fail.
So I was so worried. And that lasted about 20 minutes. I went, something. Okay. You don't have time for that. You've got to figure out how. And I'm not sure what you're going to do, but what you're going to do is just the best you can do every single step of the way. So the first thing that we said is, okay, if we decided to stay open. We didn't have a mandate to close. We had essential workers that needed us. This community wouldn't have been able to work without us, and we knew that. So instantly we said, okay, what do we need to stay open? And we needed to our attorney said, you need to give specific direction to every single staff member, step by step, what they need to do to keep your facility safe, or you are going to be liable. So we put together classroom, we called it Caring for Our Classroom, and we put together posters to show them exactly what to do, literally a red and white checklist of what they should do. And that we connected with every single funding source. So we were very diversified before this happened, had 17 different funding sources in place. So the preschools that had parent pay only, most of them have gone under or are desperately struggling right now. We had diversified well in advance. I would say diversify. If you're an entrepreneur, always diversify. But we had diversified well in advance. So our funding sources stayed in place. Most of them. Our parent pay dropped, but then we were able to move those parents who lost their job onto another source. So so that helped a lot. And then a lot of preschools closing, so we were getting a lot of new business. But then we created these posters. And we had wear your mask posters and social distancing circles. And, you know,
we should have brought those in here. Those posters are awesome.
It was pretty cool. Yeah. The equipment you need in a cabinet in order to be able to do all of this stuff. And then, you know, how to clean a bathroom and how to do the wash. And it's all different under COVID. And suddenly we realized I was on the San Diego County Emergency Child Care Task Force during this period of time. And I was talking about the resources we had and kind of got some shade from everybody. Well, why didn't you share those with others? You know, and I was like, okay, you know, that's a good idea. So what we did is we went to our graphic artist and had her design and had them professionally printed. They're amazing. We did full on copyrights. We trademarked things. And we've sold more posters than the entire process cost me. We're at a profit before we even have sold any of our inventory. So we've got this fulfillment. We just fulfilled a large organization in the state of California. We just fulfilled them. In fact, we're shipping them out today. And then I'm going to open my online website because we were worried we would get so many orders because they're pretty cool. But that was just another way to diversify. And suddenly we've got another business. It's funny. My daughter was a hairstylist and did the same thing. She went from her traveling around the country educating, where she would make about $20,000 in a weekend, pretty epic, to educating online, where she made $190,000 in 2 days. Crazy.
Yes.
Yes, crazy.
That is absolutely
She
crazy.
just did it again with another course that she put together, and in 6 days, she replicated that. So you're just like going, wow. I mean, sometimes you're given lemons, you just have to make lemonade.
That's right.
And you have to think outside the box. You have to, your brain has got to explode. Your head's got to, you know, top's got to fly off, and you've got to figure out failure is not an option. What am I going to do?
Let's talk staffing a little bit, because it's obviously really important in your field to have good people working with you. And a lot of our listeners need to know how, as they grow, you know, how they put together a good team. But in your field, it's even more important to have the right people there because, one, they're dealing with children, but also because they've got to be rolling with this mechanism the way that you're rolling. They've got to think like you, move like you, or at least understand how to take your direction. So how do you find the right team to put under? And then how also, in this, again, with the COVID effect, how do you deal with the turnover, the potential turnover that comes with that?
So the way that we find our team is by being dedicated and committed to the team God sends our way. So when we find somebody, our job is to figure out what their best, highest purpose is within our organization or without. I mean, it may not be at Children's Paradise forever. Our job is to figure out, what do you want to do and how does that fit? And how can we help you achieve your goals? And it may be long-term here, or it may not be. My current director of education, she came to work for me when we were doing foster respite nights. I don't know if you know, but foster children go from home to home to home to home. They don't stay in the same place, because as they become comfortable, they begin acting out more. And then as they act out more, parents get exhausted and off they go to another home where they behave themselves until they're comfortable. And it's kind of this odd cycle. So we were doing foster respite nights so that all these kids could see each other and see their former parents, you know. So she came to work for me doing that. And I watched her one night as she came and she brought a piece of gum and put it in this little guy's pocket. And she said to me, or she whispered in his ear, and I said, Nicole, what did you do? She said, oh, he just got his braces off and I brought him some gum because it's the first time he can chew gum. She noticed that. Most people don't notice that about kids. So I would say the first place we start is we make sure we find people who notice things about kids. Second place I love hole-in-the-wall kids. I love kids who have been through what I've been through, because they have the passion for kids like them, like us. And then we're committed to them. We've had men that have come to work for us who've had fines. We had one that had fine. He was homeless, fines for sleeping in his car, so he couldn't get a driver's license. So he, had just, his life is piling up. And so we walk them through and we help them take care of it and get rid of it. We've done, we had one of our dads came to us and he had a crime that he committed at 19. He's 45 years old and it's still hanging over his head. And so we helped him figure out restitution and the certificate of rehabilitation and the expungement of his record and all of that. So now he can get a job. And, he's our maintenance supervisor now. He wouldn't
I've
leave
met
us.
him.
Yeah, he wouldn't leave us if you paid.
Yeah.
He loves us. But it's because we don't expect them to be dedicated and committed to us if we're not dedicated and committed to them.
That's right.
So my staff have gotten hazard pay now 4 times. I'm getting ready to do a 5th dose of hazard pay. One of their hazard pays was $1,795 every single person got so that they could catch up on their rent. In May, everybody was in hell. They hadn't received money from the government. So we did that. We did another one. Everybody got it was around $711 was what I could figure out how to find. So it's not just about profitability. If you're in business to make money and that's your only goal, you're wasting your time, because that's not what business is about. Business is about making a difference. And when you make a difference, you make money. And that's the point. If you're making a difference, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're going to have the corner on the market, because people are going to seek out what you've got because you're doing your job. And my job is to provide a place for children, for families, for staff members that's authentic, that is caring, that is kind, that is considerate, and that puts quality before money, because that's the point. And that's why since COVID, I'm up 48% on income. I'm up like 3,000% on profitability. And that's including all of the stuff that we've done. Like I said, it's Wall Street's got it wrong. The way that they do it, where they squeeze every single penny out of every single thing, and there's no generosity, there's no caring. It was funny when I was printing the posters. I had a large organization. Oh, well, we can go to China and I can save you da-da-da-da-da. If you print over there, it'll take you 6 months and blah, blah, blah. And I went, I'm going to Poway because there's a small business person in Poway that needs a job and that is going to make sure that that money stays in my community. And did I pay a little bit more? Sure, I did. But so, it doesn't matter, because ultimately when you do the right thing, you're going to be fine. And I guess I'm not one of those people who needs 1,500 houses and all the yachts and the, I'd love to have what is it? The, it's the Audi. I've got an A7. It's an older one.
Her eye on a yacht, it sounds like.
But it's not going to happen. My point is, it's not going to happen. You always have, ballin'. That's what I want to do. That's not really much. That's no fun. It gets boring.
Hey, listen, that wasn't awesome. I mean, what you just said was amazing.
Yeah,
you make a difference, you can make a profit. You first, the key is to make a difference. I mean, I almost bit a hole through my leg. I almost jumped out of my seat waiting to talk just to tell you amen. You know what I mean? That was awesome. You have other programs that you've got incorporated into your system. I saw parenting classes, the summer camp. You talked about that earlier, the before and after school stuff. I mean, you really have thought this out.
Yeah.
Big.
We have a huge plethora of services that we offer to children and families based upon what we found are the needs of their families. I would say that about 1.5 years ago, thank God we did this, we started a mental health and disability services. Talk about mental health and disabilities needs during this period of time.
Yeah, definitely.
Unbelievable. I mean, we've had so many people that we've been able to connect. We have a licensed mental health therapist on staff, and so we've got that going. Lots of parent engagement events. I mean, you can come to Children's Paradise and learn about your child's development while kids are having a drive-in night at the movies. And what you do is you show up and using boxes and art supplies, you make a car for your child, and then the child drives their car to the movies, which is a big blow-up screen outside on the grass.
That's
There's
beautiful.
Popcorn and candy, cotton candy, and photo booth pictures and all that going on.
Yeah.
Kids are at the movies, and then the parents go in and learn about the development of their child as we share out the results of their ages and stages questionnaire process and developmental assessments that have been done and all of that. So parents just have a ball. I mean, we do pre-K prom. We do... I'm telling you, just all sorts of stuff. We've got virtual learning, and so people can sign in for our virtual learning program where you can videos and take home learning kits, and it's all free. We do it all for families. We didn't charge. I think that was one of the things during COVID that everybody loved so much, is that we had these take home learning kits, and you could just be a member of the community, come by the school, pick it up. We'd give you the link to sign in for the videos, and you had this really fun stuff to do with your kids at home. When those parents look for preschool, where are they going to go? ta-da.
Yeah,
But it's because we did our job,
that's right.
and that's, what's so important about Children's Paradise. It's all about being a member of this community and doing our job, even when we're not being paid.
Let's go back to school.
Back to school. So we have a little segment here. I love education. Every chance that I get, I jump at learning more and gaining more knowledge. And so for business owners, I ask, when, you're taught things in the classroom, how does it apply to the real world? When you take a textbook, it's not going to go exactly the way you want it sometimes. And so my question for you, which is a little different, because you're in the education field, sort of. I mean, you're in the business of making lives better, but to me, that's education. So what's one of the most memorable lessons that you learned at any point in your education, whether it's college level, high school, or even younger, from a teacher, whether it was, a lesson in the classroom or they were just telling you something outside of the classroom? What's something that really stuck out that's helped you grow?
I would say I was up at Pacific Oaks. I got my degree after I started the first Children's Paradise, not before. I had gone to school here and there and all of that, but I didn't finish until 98.
Okay.
So I was at Pacific Oaks, and I was supposed to put together an activity for all the adults in the classroom, and all the adults were the kids. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, okay, I can do something a little bit more complicated, and it had to be something that you enjoy. So I love baking. I love cooking. I make some amazing fruit tarts. So I thought, fruit tarts, that's fun. It's processed, but it ultimately ends up, there's a great result. And so I put together these cards that showed every single phase, and I set them up beautifully on a table, and then I put every single ingredient. And then, and I did the circle time and gave the adults the lesson about how they were supposed to do it. And these adults proceeded to go through my beautifully set up line and just create a mess. Seriously. Like, they couldn't figure out, you take the tart shell, you put the stuff in, you decorate the fruit on the top, and then you paint it with the hot jelly, and ta-da, you've got a tart. Right. It was easy, but they didn't. They would put the tart shell and then a glop on their plate here, and they'd put fruit all over there, and they wouldn't use and it was driving me crazy. And I went, wait, guys, this is how it's supposed to go. And my teacher's just kind of watching me, and she's, and I'm trying to show them how to perfectly bake a tart. Yeah. And she said to me, Julie, what if they don't want to make a perfect tart? What if they like picking off the crust and eating the pudding over here and then taking a bite of fruit over there? And what if the appearance of the tart doesn't mean anything to them? Mm-hmm. It means something to you. You like that perfect stuff, but sometimes what you have to do is realize that everybody in this world is as different as all of the tarts they made today. And that you have to be able to modify yourself and your expectations to meet the person that is standing before you.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, mm-hmm. You never even think of that. Mm-hmm. For me, I'm OCD. You drive me crazy if it's not in order and perfect, which my staff think is really funny, because as much as I try to meet people where they are, if I walk into a center and it's not spotless and boom, mm-hmm. I'm all over it. Okay, mm-hmm. It's why we look so great. And they tease, they know it's why we look so great, because they'll bring an ugly couch in and it's out of there and I got a new one. That's beautiful. I'm just it's not happening. I can't do it. Yeah. And they have to know, you got to meet me where I am. I can't have ugly centers. But it was just that piece that helps me all the time to think every single person, every single employee, every single parent, every single person in the world that you're going to engage is just a different kind of tart. Sure. And they like their tart different, mm-hmm. And you have to make room for that. And I think that's probably one of the most important things I've learned. Do I do it all the time? No.
It's hard. Well, you're OCD. Really what are you going to do? You're fighting something
bad.
Something serious.
So bad.
So we, as we wind down, we do a little internet dive sometimes, and actually, what I picked out is a quote that I know that it's not necessarily your quote, but it's a quote that you said, and you said, "A success is just a failure that refuses to quit," and I really just like that, and I'd like you to expand on what you mean by that, because again, that's the kind of message that our listeners would love to hear.
As an entrepreneur, I would say from day one, selling stationery I always felt like a failure. I was never going to be able to get this done. I just knew I was never going to be able to succeed. But I did it anyway. And somehow it worked, and I would be a little surprised. I would tell you that this week I had a sleepless night going, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to get that done? How am I ever going to get, to that point? Whether it's selling stationery or whether it's running, a company that's doing millions upon millions of dollars every year, you're always going to feel like you're at the point where everything's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
I would tell you, I get there every month, constantly. I'm constantly going, oh my God, what am I going to do about this? And if you allow that negative talk, which is in your head, to rule the day, that is the day you're going to fail. As long as you don't. And it was my husband who taught me that lesson. When we started Children's Paradise on Vale Terrace, there was a day when we were overdrawn $5 in our account. We had $5 bill in our pocket. We had peanut butter and jelly in the fridge, but no bread and no milk. We went and took the $5. We bought bread, we bought milk, and we had $2 left over, and they handed us a $2 bill. It was the weirdest thing. He handed me the $2 bill. He said, put that in your pocket. When we're broke, spend it. We carried a $2 bill in our pockets forever.
Yeah.
We've always said, when the day comes and there's nothing else we can eat or nothing else we can do, we're going to take the $2 bill. We're going to go and buy as much hamburger as we can get that day. And that's going to be it. We're going to go sleep on cardboard together as a team, And it's been kind of the joke between us. But it really is true. I think that this is an amazing country. It can be a scary country at times. I think all of us feel that way. But as a person, as a human being, you have to know that you have the power to quit or to go on. And that may just be, I remember as a kid going at a rest stop and I was so hungry. I got to the point I walked up to somebody and said, I'm really hungry. Can I have some? And they were eating. They said, sure, set me down and fed me. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. If you don't try, you're never going to know if you could have. And I would say that that's kind of what I meant by that.
I was going to ask you for one more message to give to our audience, but I think that's kind of it. Yeah, and I appreciate that. That's great. Anything else that you want to say about your business as we wrap up? Anything else that we want to say about what you've got going on? I know those organizational posters are amazing. So, that's a big deal right there. A big deal. I've never seen anything like it. I actually started, I was telling you, I was like, the chamber does something like, no, I don't think they do anything like, so. No, not like what I'm doing. And so I really like what you're doing, but anything else that you can tell us about what's going on, future of Children's Paradise, anything else?
So we are opening a new site in Carlsbad. That's our next site. We're located next to Walmart on Marone Road. So that's getting ready to break ground. It will be epic. We will be doing like we do at our other sites where we reserve a certain number of spaces for children in need. So 60% of that site will be reserved. 40% will be for other community members. But it'll be epic. We will be doing evening care, kids' night out on Fridays and Saturdays, so parents can go get to know each other and kids can have fun. We will be doing epic birthday parties, mommy and me play groups, all sorts of stuff at that location. So I'm super excited about that. We're always hiring. If somebody is passionate about education, if you want to be an elementary school teacher, we could put you on the pathway to get there, and you could work during that period of time. It's just Children's Paradise is a cool place. And Smarty Patch Foundation, that's an organization we started to help sponsor kids that don't qualify for a program and don't have parents who are wealthy enough to pay the full tuition rate. So we provided, I think, $650,000 worth of scholarships through that last year. And that's from just Children's Paradise. That wasn't from donations. So that was kind of cool. We were pretty proud of ourselves about that last year.
Should be.
It's a fun place, and anybody wants to come by, take a tour. We've had Chamber of Commerce Sundowner there that everybody got to see how epic it is, because you have no idea how beautiful the yards are until you're in them. Yeah. It's amazing. It's not like your normal preschool.
The kitchen too. Everything was great walking through there. I remember.
Yeah. Can you imagine kids that qualify for Head Start and welfare have their own personal chef that finds out what they want to eat every single day and makes sure that it's included on his menu or her menu?
Children's
And
Paradise.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I had a little girl come through and she says, you know why they call this Children's Paradise? And I said, no, why, Chloe? She says, because it's a paradise for kids. And she goes skipping down the hallway. Yes. Or the other kid who looked at me and said, you look like Rapunzel. And I said, really? He said, yes, the old one.
Oh,
They come in all kinds.
that's right. That's right. I told you it was going to be a great guest. I knew I was excited for a reason. Sean, you heard me? I told you she was going to be awesome. I'm glad we had the opportunity to sit down with you. Informative, inspiring, and important conversation. Thank you for expanding our vision and your work with our future CEOs, entrepreneurs, and inventors.
Awesome. Thank
Julie
you so much.
Lowen,
This was fun.
ladies
Thank you,
and gentlemen.
Julie.
Thank
This
you.
was very fun. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's throw out some
Want
contacts.
to give some contact
Yeah.
info?
So Julie Lowen with Children's Paradise. Her website is childrensparadise.com. You can find her on Facebook and learn a lot more about the Paradise at CPP Online. And then Julie also told me about it's another website, shop.childrensparadise.com. And Julie, do you want to just real quick tell us what that is?
So we have all of the learning posters that basically help any school be able to functionally operate a classroom. No matter who's in that classroom for that day, you literally can make sure that the basics that need to happen to keep children safe, healthy, and learning are going on. And we've got an entire collection of posters that are intended to be posted in preschools, elementary, middle, and high schools. We're even looking at putting them into nursing homes so that caregivers really know kind of where we are on the day. Did we disinfect that? Did we clean that? Kind of what's coming up next. So
I'm going to put them up at the
excited.
winery. I
say
think
that
I need
website
them.
again.
It's shop.childrensparadise.com.
That's great.
Yeah.
Pretty
Thank
cool
you.
site. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
This was
you.
fun.
Thank you for tuning in to the Same Business, Different Day podcast.
Happy New Year!
Special thanks to StarFox Media for video production and James Russell for music production. Please like and subscribe to Same Business, Different Day on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We've got a lot of new episodes with amazing guests coming in 2021. Keep listening and Happy New Year, everyone.
Devontae?
It's been a long day, man. I'm gonna play you something. I don't know about you, but when I woke up this morning, I thought today would be a great day. I mean, yesterday was fine, but today, I had joy. And you probably don't know that you have stolen it from me. You robbed me of my joy. As the influx of information bombarded me, your guilt, your thoughts, your ignorance dripped on my timeline like an IV filled with poison. And I tried to stop the consumption. But as soon as I got to work, I got hit with the same thing. My joy, my black joy disappeared. Now you see me, now you don't. I wish I could be as elusive as black joy, but I'm forever caught off guard while you think off beat, missing the timing. You may think your thoughts are weightless, but they're actually heavy. Have you ever been given something heavy when you weren't expecting it? It can make your knees buckle, make you short of breath. Timing is everything. I didn't even know I needed the time to grieve. Not till I was alone. I felt free. Then abracadabra, you introduced me to my nightmares to make conversation. I've came to the conclusion that black joy is magic. At the end of the day, what you got, they can't have it.